Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, Papa Smoke back again for another video as promised. So, some of the groups that I had me on, I promised to do a video on Gris Gris, poppets and jars. Now, I haven't got a jar work to show you because they're exactly where they should be, concealed. Okay, so I see people on some witchcraft groups, not voodoo related groups mostly, but on witchcraft groups casually throwing around instructions to create poppets and things like that. And I think I think, well, if you don't really know what you're doing, it can be quite dangerous. So let me first explain why each one of these works can be quite dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So a puppet itself, as you've probably guessed, represents a person. So it can represent you, or it can represent a specific target. Now, you can do poppets in a couple of ways. You can do them a hoodoo way, where you just put herbs, lodestones and certain things into it, talk to it to bring it to life, and it does its thing. Or you can do it a voodoo way, which is very similar, but as well as talking to it to bring it to life, you saw Veve inside it, and you put the essence of the Loa into it through a secret kind of ceremony to do this, which is where we can get dangerous. I mean, it can get dangerous pretty much if you offend one that's not got a Loa in. And how you don't offend them is look after them correctly, feed them at least once every 2 weeks. I talk to mine at least once every 2 weeks as well. This is Herbert. He's a protection poppet. So I feed Herbert, I talk to him, I keep him in a place that's, well, I keep him with another doll that's on me that's positive as well. And because I look after him and I feed him and I maintain him, he's actually quite positive for me. Now, if I was to not feed Herbert, the spirits within Herbert would attack me, which wouldn't be very good, considering it's not just got Herbert in anymore, it's got the essence of a Loa in it. So I would potentially be attacked by that as well. Now, you can feed your poppets or your Gris Gris scotch if at a push, water at a push, rum or Gris Gris oil. So yeah, basically a puppet represents a person, and if you don't know what you're doing, say for example if you're trying to do a positive manifestation, like a protection puppet for someone for example, and you put the wrong thing in there and the spirits don't gel harmoniously, instead of doing a positive effect on that person's body and protecting them, you will actually be creating a conflict in their body and harming them. Because obviously a spiritual clash created within the puppet would be a spiritual clash created within the body, and depending on how that clash manifests depends on whether that could result into severe physical harm or in some cases potential terminal illness. So you really need to know what you're doing to mess with poppets. Do not mess with poppets if you do not know what you are doing. It's very dangerous. So moving on to jars and Gris Gris. Now, jars and Gris Gris work very similar to poppets, but instead of representing one particular person and one particular person's physical, astral and spiritual self, they represent the person's whole microcosm, so the whole universe. And what I mean by microcosm is that particular person's sphere of influence in the universe. It affects the whole kit and caboodle. So if you don't put the correct ingredients in a jar, for example, in a honey jar, let's just pick a positive one. You don't put the correct ingredients in a honey jar for somebody, and you actually sour that jar, you will end up souring the love life of the person rather than sweetening it. So you will end up ruining things rather than helping it. With the Gris Gris, if you put the wrong things in the Gris Gris and the spirits within the stones clash with the spirits within the herbs, for example, again you're creating conflict in that person's universe. Now, we don't know how that conflict's going to manifest. That conflict could manifest one day you getting mugged by 9 or 10 guys that stab you. And if you really don't know what you're doing, you really don't go playing around with these things, regardless of what recipes you see on the internet, because some of them are written by people who are not sure what they're doing. Again with Gris Gris, you can sew a Veve into the lining. Well, vaudouissant like myself can sew Veve into the lining and channel the essence of the Loa into the Gris Gris. And again, you feed them at least once every 2 weeks. Talk to them to wake them up and stuff like that. You must treat them with utmost respect and look after them. Again, if you don't do these things, the spirits in the bag or the life, they're in there as well, can and will attack you. They'll hurt you. To be honest with you, there's no nice way around it. They will hurt you. There is no nice way around it. Now, a jar is similar to a Gris Gris, but the way a jar works is, yes, you're manifesting things in people's universe, but the person don't carry it around with them to manifest the change on themselves. It just basically puts those energies and those spirits into that person's microcosm. So if you create a clash there, again, same sort of danger can happen. You can create a clash in someone's life that could be potentially quite violent. So you really need to know what you're doing with these things. Now, generally with Gris Gris and dolls, you will have between 3 and 13 ingredients, no more than 13 and no less than 3. 3 is quite a weak manifestation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be more than 3 to be a decent manifestation if you're only looking for a specific effect. But other things can amplify each other and things like that, which is why we can go all the way up to 13, which would be a pretty, if you knew what you were doing, it'd be a pretty damn strong manifestation. Mine are between 9 and 13, or what I use. With the jar, again, it can be between 3 and 13 things. I must stress enough, doing any of these things, you need to know what you're doing. You need to understand you are either affecting somebody's whole universe, or you are affecting all their bodies. And what I mean by all their bodies is in all dimensions and all whatever, past, present, parallel and future. You are affecting the kit and caboodle playing with these things. These are not toys. Yes, it looks like a toy. You know, he's cuddly. Give him respect. He's cool. He's a good guy. But he's not a toy. He needs the respect. The Gris Gris bags, they're cool things. They bring you good effects and positive energies if treated correctly. But they're not toys. And the jars, don't just go throwing sour jars around at anyone that calls you names. And don't play with jars, not even honey jars, if you don't know what you're doing. You're more likely to screw up your manifestation and mess up your love life than you are to improve it. Come to a professional, or if you've got the resources and the know-how, learn how to do it. Anyway, that's been jars, Gris Gris and dolls tonight from a beginner's perspective without giving too much away. Thanks for your time. Have a good one.